You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Ken Vellante. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
This is Ken Vellante with the Something Rather Than Nothing podcast, and I am very excited to talk to Mark Ostler. And man, at first it was the content of some of the work you do in illustrations, Waltzing Carpet Juliette, and I had seen that, and then holy wow, I found out Warning Danger, also a band which I listened to extensively. Hell yeah, love that shit. So that was a great surprise. I didn't even know that realm of things. But when we get into a little bit later, talk about the different things that you've done in the art world and art identity. But Mark, wanted to welcome you on to Something Rather Than Nothing.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for having me. This is a real privilege. It's a real pleasure. Oh my goodness. Now you want to talk about my discography? Let's talk about your discography. Everybody after this podcast, go check this out. Something Rather Than Nothing podcast. You will be amazed by some of the guests that Ken Vellante has had on. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It is fun to have great, amazing guests and to be able to do this. But I wanted to start off like just like in general about your relationship to art. And you've done different things, but starting a little bit earlier when you were younger. I mean, did you walk around and see yourself as an artist, or did you kind of bump around artists? What's your relationship with doing art?
Great question. Well, if we want to go way back, I would admire the people that did art. I didn't really do much myself, but then I discovered like zines and stuff like that. And that was something that I really gravitated to. I wrote Waltzing Carpet Juliette back in 2001, and it literally stayed in my basement for about 20 years until I revisited it. But that's what I first started out with. And I also liked filmmaking too. So my band Warning Danger actually started out as a film project. And the film project collapsed, but the band kind of was birthed from there. And then eventually the band, we go through our ups and downs. Right now we have some wonderful members, Eric Brookbauer, Rick Lambert, and then our new friend Josh from a local band called Titnine. He's filling in for some of the drumming for us. We've got a future ahead. We're going to try to get one gig coming up soon. We played a bunch of gigs, and I was a stand-up comedian for a while, and now I publish a really wacky little 4-issue miniseries called Waltzing Carpet Juliette, and I'm about to publish the first issue of my next comic book called Ivar The Boxer.
All right. Hey, I was so excited to hear that about that coming up in the comic, and we're talking about zines and stuff. For me, I just wanted to mention I found zines for real in the last few years. For me, I had seen them around and stuff like that. I didn't know what was going on. There's a lot of stuff in the bookstore. I have a lot of interests, a lot of things, but I started to drop into small press and zines. And what's so cool about it is I adore the format, but what's pretty cool here, just an aside, is a bookstore, Browser's Bookstore, a couple blocks from me, official bookstore of the show. Great independent, used bookstore, vibrant kind of place and community, and I had a bunch of zines, and zines would be shared, or you collect them, of course, but you got a good zine, you run over and hey, look at this shit, this is fucking awesome. Have multiple people read it, and Abe created a zine section in the store with part of my collection to kind of like build that up, and it's really great because a lot of people are kind of drawn to it like a sparkly object. Like, what is this thing? Why are these things different colors and small and different sizes? So it just attracts people.
What's the name of that bookstore?
Thank you very much. Browser's Bookstore. And one cool thing about Browser's is we got to get your comic there, and because most of the authors and such have their books over there, or books can be ordered through browsers. So I love having these connections, and I'm excited about that comic book. Tell us what the hell, what's going on with that? What's it look like?
So that's my future project coming up soon. It's called Ivar the Boxer. And it's a story about a salty, surly, buff and burly Russian sailor named Ivar the who immigrated to America only to have a sucker punch kill him dead. And the year is 1907, and Ivar sails on a trade ship bound for the USA. But he never returned to his crew on that fateful departure day. I will make my fortune in America and return to Russia only when I'm wealthy. Until my pockets are bulging, not yet again will I see my family. And enchanted by beauty, Ivar committed mutiny and refused to return to his vessel. He abandoned his duty and chased his destiny to a seaport town named Seattle.
Woo!
So that's how the comic book starts.
Jeez, that's how it starts.
And your show gets a sneak preview of the audio book. Next weekend, actually, I'm going into my friend Dean's studio, Magnet Temple Studio, and I'm going to be recording the audio book. That's going to accompany the zine/comic book that's titled Ivar the Boxer.
Dude, you got it rolling here. You're talking audio. You're talking Ivar showing up in Seattle. Like, I mean, you got this rolling. I'm down here, and everybody. I'm down in Oregon, speaking to our Mark Ostler, up in Seattle, and talking music and art. And speaking of art, Mark, very intrigued by your thoughts about what the hell is art? What are we trying?
Great question. And I love the format of something rather than nothing. I love that that's one of the main questions you ask your awesome guest. What is art? And that is a huge question, and I love it. And, back when I was in college, I actually studied a philosopher that has kind of a funny name. His first name is Immanuel, but his last name is Kant. Kant, Immanuel Kant. And unlike other philosophers, Immanuel wondered about stuff like beauty and the sublime and the art. And I guess my personal definition of art falls in line with Kant's term of aestheticism, or it's something that produces an emotional reaction in the viewer. And now, the emotional reaction can be as a trickle like a stream, or it can erupt like a volcano. But nonetheless, it might be a pleasant emotion. It might be an unsettling emotion, but regardless, it's an emotion, and it was created in you by a piece of art. And then you get into matters of like personal preference and bad taste and what's art and creates a thought. But if it shares an emotion with the viewer, if you're an inanimate object, or it can be an animate object like dance or something, we could all be staring at blank walls, but instead we get a print of Monet or a photo or some sort of phrase that inspires us, and it creates an emotion in us. And life is better because of art, because we could be staring at blank walls and it could be nothing. And that's where your podcast comes in. Something rather than nothing is art. Art is something that creates an emotion. And thank you for bringing art out of obscurity. All of these cool artists that are on your podcast, all are absolutely artists in their own little way. And it's been so much fun deep diving into something rather than nothing.
I really appreciate that, brother. And one of the things you mentioned there with Kant, I give you credit on Kant and Kant's philosophy of art or aesthetics and the critique of judgment. Kant is a difficult philosopher to wrangle with, but so important. And I was actually quite moved myself, Mark, with the critique of judgment. I had the opportunity to study Kant's works a while back when I was at Marquette University. As a matter of fact, Kant was one of the required base courses. So we had Kant, Plato, Aristotle, and Aquinas to study. And Kant, I hadn't come into contact with much Kant, but the project is so massive and intellectually thrilling. And I was actually surprised as I went through. I was like, Kant thought, and this is just a simple view in my thinking, Kant didn't write around a lot of different subjects, but he wrote on what I think he thought was the most important: knowledge, and how do we have knowledge, morality or ethics that comes out of Kant, and art. And I think he had to felt like he had to grapple like what goes on. There's so much of a rationalist. What's going on with this weird ass shit that happens when we encounter art? Like, what's going on there? And the description and critique of judgment, and the sense of what would we say,
It's an
awe
easy
or
read.
the sublime, and I really appreciate that. And the thing is too, even on the show, I appreciate your comments about like almost the integration of something rather than nothing. Because when people ask something rather than nothing, it's like the hugest metaphysical question, and don't necessarily tie it to art. But in my show, I've just been keep pushing that in there, the something, the nothing. What the heck are we doing? So let me ask you the big question there, like kind of in the midst of this, after the other big question, what is art? Is why do you think there's something rather than nothing?
That's a wonderful, wonderful question. And you mentioned other philosophers that you studied, like Plato. Plato, this is along the same pathway as the cavemen staring at a wall. It could be a blank wall, or it could have something on it, some sort of like wonderful window into the past, some sort of field or landscape that no longer exists. Or it can be a song that you listen to and it grips you and it transports you, or like reading a book that you're so involved in, you got something in your hand, and rather than nothing. Because you know what sucks? Fucking nothing. Nothing sucks. It sucks to have nothing. And I'm sure we all remember those times in our life that it felt like we had nothing. Like maybe there's a major transformation in your life. Like you had to change schools. You got no friends, or somebody that you know that you love so much passed away, and it felt like you had nothing, some sort of tragic shit. But you know what you did have? You had something. That one comic book, that special record, that one song, that piece of media or something that would transport you away from this nothing and give you something. You shared an emotion with some sort of art, and that is something rather than nothing. Rather than being zero, you had a little bit of something, and that fucking art makes life worth living. It's cool, and I don't know. I'm caught up in this idea.
I love it. I'm caught up in it too. It's a zero or it's a one, and no, man, I love your energy around the art. I have that too, and I think that's fun when artists come in contact with each other, and that these ideas are exciting. And what if the question is, take art out of the world. Think about that concept for a while, and then let's chat about.
You'd have nothing.
I've had a lot. I have a lot of guests saying like things get a little bit goofy or something, or even a moment during a day or 1,000 moments during a day. You go and look at a book or a comic, or you play a song. You're like, fuck this noise. Like you do it each day throughout the day when things are like scattered or hazy or something. You have something that helps make a little sense of it. So I think if you're sensitive to it, that will happen. Hey, you've had different iterations, talking about being an artist, a performer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mention the role, and I'm going to let you riff on like you doing that, like, what it means to you. So
all right.
You mentioned the comedian bit. Now trying that's the high wire act.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So, where do I begin? Well, Warning Danger started from a film project. That's the band I was in. And then one of our members left, and it was kind of a tough time to be in the band. And so we weren't having regular practices, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. My friends are like, now what you doing, Mark? No, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. I was a stand-up comedian in the Seattle comedy scene for about 2 years. It's hard. It's tough. Oh, my gosh. Like, it is very vulnerable up there. It's just you and a microphone, and you're trying to make people laugh. Oof. So
it's,
Yeah, so you're trying to make people laugh. And one night you're up there and you deliver that punchline and the house comes down. Blah, and it's the coolest feeling to have a group of strangers laugh at you. Blah, and you just sit back and you're like, wow, this is cool. It's like getting blasted with wind. But then the very next night, you don't change anything in your act and you deliver that punchline and it's crickets. Nobody understands what you're doing. It's a humbling experience to be up there.
There's no middle ground experience, it seems, sometimes in the experience of comedy. Let me hit you with another one.
Yeah.
Talking about film. Tell me about Vampire Hunter Hank.
Vampire Hunter Hank was done by Taco Cart Production. Jerry Howard, Stacey Hoffman, Wes Johnson, Joey Flores, myself, and Don Chili Ortega. We made a video called Vampire Hunter Hank. Now, if you're a vampire hunter in modern day, how are you going to make your money? Well, my grandpa's day, he could take an ad out in the local newspaper, and all sorts of people would come flooding for him to kill some vampires. Nowadays, if you want to be a vampire hunter, you got to be a little trickier. So what he does is he kills vampires, takes their stuff, sells it at garage sales and on eBay. Vampire Hunter Hank. We got into some film festivals, and it was a really cool experience.
I got to tell you that I could be wrong on this. I thought I saw a Portland Craigslist ad for a Vampire Hunter Hank there. So I don't
reply to that one. Don't reply to that Craigslist ad. You don't want nothing to do with that person.
All right. I started out talking about Warning Danger.
Yeah.
So what do you do? I'm listening, fucking love it. But I'm trying to, you try to get a handle on music. You're like, what is this? What is somebody up to? And then I read a little bit more, and it's a band talking about the dangers of danger.
That's right.
And about safety. So I was startled at first because that's not what I expected. Safety, even called safety talk. This is not everyday parlance for our listeners. Tell us what's going on here with Warning Danger and safety.
Warning Danger has a message to give to the world. You know what that message is? Stay safe. We're all about warning you of dangers that you might not actually think of. We got dangers about killer bees. You remember in elementary school what a threat killer bees were going to be? Well,
yeah, I did a report on that, yeah.
You did a report on killer bees? Awesome. And we got a song about Godzilla. We got a song about how do you assemble an emergency kit. We got a song called Stop, Drop, and Roll. We got almost 70 songs on YouTube right now. And thanks to our friends, Cameron Peck from Tilted Bucket. He was the drummer in our previous album. And you were talking about that, the doom metal side of it. Yes, we have some doom metal stuff. It's called Doom Vacuum. And it's all about the dangers of animal torture. What a prick. Anybody that does that deserves one sort of fiery place that they deserve to go to. So we have a song about vacuums and the dangers of them. It's been a wild ride, and it's been a really fun ride being in Warning Danger.
Well, thank you for doing it, because I'm locked in and digging on this. And everybody, I'm looking at the Asteroid with an exclamation point CD, beautiful physical media with tracks, Asteroid, exclamation point, Greed, One Hit Wonder, Fuck It All, Active Shooter, and a very reassuring song, Everybody Shits Their Pants. Sometimes.
That's right.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
You're
And
helping
there's a
people.
hidden track in there. Rick Lambert's remix of Asteroid. It's badass.
That remix, I've listened to the remix as well. Did not know what to expect, but was utterly pleased.
Thank you.
Throughout. Everybody check out Warning Danger.
Thank you.
Drop in and keep going.
So can I tell you some YouTube links? So we have a song about the dangers of clowns. Clowns.
Oh, hell yeah.
Type in YouTube,
yeah.
Clowns, They Freak Me Out. And you will find the Warning Danger song called Clowns, They Freak Me Out. Recorded by
That's a great song.
Anthony Fantozzi, One Half Bastards recording. Amazing. It was so much fun. So the Tacoma Volcano, which is a local paper here in the Northwest, did a interview with me because do you remember there were all these like weird clown sightings? And like right before the pandemic, a lot of these weirdos with balloons showing up at random places. And they were doing a little article about this strange phenomenon. And so they thought that I was some kind of clown expert because I made a song called Clowns, They Freak Me Out. And we talked about clowns.
I'm talking to you right now, and because we could see each other and I see your screen, the thing that popped up with Clown Expert, I could literally see the typograph there, like a TV report, Clown Expert right next to your head, and I can't get rid of that. So you must have been on that list. There's these lists, right? I work in the labor movement, right? So there's these lists. Somebody's going on strike. Who do we call? This clown's showing up. You must be on the equivalent expert list. We got clowns going on. Fuck, we got to give Mark another call. It's like, does he have any? Let me ask you a particular question.
Sure.
That popped into my head. Have you listened to the band called Clowncore?
No.
Okay, and this is for everybody that's listening as well, and that's totally fine since clowns came up. Everybody, Clowncore will blow your fucking mind, and watch the videos as well. So I don't know, maybe if I listen to some of the clown songs that you have, and there's a whole clown thing, and I'm feeling more comfortable around clowns, but I know you're always trying to point out the danger that's out there.
Clowns can be dangerous. Don't believe anybody that tells you otherwise. Clowns can be dangerous.
All right. So the question back behind some of these comments was about when you saw yourself as an artist. And I think folks who do different things and create different type of things, that could be a different type of question, right? I'll give you an example. Somebody's been singing since they were 4 or 5. That's their path. Their mom sang. They love singing. They're fantastic at it. They're going to sing. They're an artist. That's what they do. What about you as far as like seeing yourself as an artist, the artist persona around creation? What's your relationship with that?
I don't know. I'm always battling with crippling self-doubt. I'm never quite sure if I'm an artist or not, And being an artist, I'm not entirely sure what that means, but in a lot of ways, you make yourself vulnerable. You show your little product, whatever it is, your art to an audience, and it makes you vulnerable, and it sets you up for rejection and failure. And I've experienced some really deep, weird levels of rejection and failure being an artist. So part of that, being an artist is like, oh, I got this big success, so that kind of, I guess that makes me an artist, right? But then I got this deep failure, so fuck, I guess I'm not. But then you get these cool wins, like, hey, you get an acceptance from Something Rather Than Nothing podcast, and you're like, hey, all right, maybe I am doing something right.
Yeah, this is artist zone. I think I think it's, I always find it to be a fascinating question because it isn't like anybody has to perfectly like meld into their identity as artists. I think artists have fundamental trouble with what all that means. And, I would say like even, for myself, it's only been over the last 5 to 7 years that I would inhabit that persona, even though I've created things. I didn't create things consistently or wasn't involved in projects, but for me, what was really important was painting. I started painting, and the feelings within that, and the small accomplishments or larger accomplishments where I was kind of amazed once in a while with what was created. I was filled with wonder. That's where it started to happen for me. And, creating the podcast over 5 years, and working as an artist, consistency, intrigue, fascinating stuff, and keeping going with that because you want people to listen and read. I wanted to ask you a little bit, just kind of open it up, Mark. I'm a comics freak. About 20 feet from me in the attic here, I got a massive fortress of 500 quantity comic boxes, the big long comic boxes, and I could throw a rock here and hit
what kind of
5,000. All right. A lot of underground stuff, superheroes. Let me start with superhero stuff. On Marvel, Spider-Man, huge on Thor. Fucking love Hulk. Love Hulk.
Wow.
DC, Batman's just like fucking. I'm all into Batman. Thinking of like Vertigo or Adult Swamp Thing. I did an episode on Swamp Thing, 2.5 hours of moving into the wonder and beauty that is the mystery of a Swamp Thing, Sandman. But what has happened with me is like throughout my life, I'd hit the bigger titles, but now I'm on really underground or smaller publishers. There's a great comic book store, couple of them great ones. Floating World Comics, which does publishing in Portland. I pick up a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
And love a lot of Image Comics. I'm a huge fan of Jeff Lemire, Sweet Tooth, in Essex County. Really adore Love and Rockets. So I go all over the place. But the big piece to take away from this is Portland is like Seattle. When I first got to Portland, I'm like, holy mother of pearl, this is comic book heaven. I walk past comic book artists and writers, the comic convention, the comic book stores. I mean, I can drive to Portland, drop into 6 of them. That's mind blowing to me in 20. And there are probably a lot more. I'm not sure, but so I'm a huge fan. And when I read comics, it really quickly puts me into a different place, a different cadence of my mind. And between the color and the words, I'm in better shape overall a lot of times through my comic experience.
Yeah.
But that's about me, Mark. What do you dig on? What do you dig on with comics? What's been your influence?
Oh my gosh, great question. Well, as a kid, I loved Mad Magazine and Sergio Aragones' Gru the Wanderer. Oh my goodness. I would wait for the next issue to come out, right? You feel like you can't wait for the next something. The next month you get a new something. Oh man, something rather than nothing. So I also loved Spider-Man and Batman and the other one I liked X-Men, but New Mutants. I love New Mutants. Before Harry Potter and the Owl, you had a letter from Xavier's school of gifted youngsters that was going to show up in the mail. And this dude in a wheelchair is going to take you away to this special school on the hill and teach you about your own mutant powers. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Thanks for that celebration of the role that Charles Xavier and the X-Men played in society for a very long time.
That's right.
I love the X-Men. I recently had the great fortune. I was at a work conference very recently. I was out in New York City. I was at Times Square, and the biggest, largest rolling banner in animation of X-Men '97. Like I was just standing there and looking at it. It was so fun to see this kind of excitement around this show. I guess they're popping it on Disney Plus, the X-Men '97. But it was great to see all these images and such, like larger than life, the way that that it feels. So early on,
these days I got a whole mess of stuff I love that's coming out.
Yeah, what about I dig on I want to say even on the show, what I love about the show is that I'm consistently connecting with Seattle, connect with you. I've had Mark Palm on the show, Sarah Romano Deal. Was great up there, and a lot of folks up there in Seattle. I wanted to talk to you, and of course, Fantagraphics books up there in. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about I've never even been there. Can you tell me a little bit about the influence of Fantagraphics or any contact with them for you?
Wow. Where do I begin talking about Fantagraphics? Well, they got a bookstore right in the heart of Georgetown, and it's run by an incredible man by the name of Larry Reed. They call him the mayor of Georgetown. He's the proprietor of Fantagraphics bookstore and gallery. He's also got his own little publishing called Misfit Lit, and they're now releasing every 2 months a new little newsletter called Comixity, and it pretty much talks about what's going on in comics in Seattle. And you know who their first guest in their zine was, their brand new zine? Peter Bagge.
Tell me.
One of my favorite artists, cartoonists of all time. He was published by Fantagraphics, and with a long-running series called Hate, and then it was republished as Buddy Does Seattle, and et cetera, et cetera. Peter Bagge, Baggee, is one of my hugest influences. And now modern day, Fantagraphics bookstore and gallery, they host parties. They host artist signings. They host art showings. They host comic book release parties, and they've been so nice to me and let me have a party in their bookstore. And the last one we had spoken word from Larry Reed, who he republished poetry by Stephen Jesse Bernstein, and he performed some of that. Goddess Kring, a long-running public access star / poet / model / musician, and then myself somehow with my 4th issue of my comic book, sitting there hanging out with a bunch of friends, looking at comic books. It's a beautiful thing. They've been so supportive. And they also are very involved in the comic book festival. We have 2 big ones here in Seattle. The Hot Off the Press Book Fair, which I have done 2 years in a row now. And then one day I'll do the Short Run Book Fair in November.
Yeah. Great stuff up there in Seattle. I have Larry's name just so well regarded. I talked to Mark Palm, has been on the show, and chatted with him. He tells me about all the stuff that happens up there. And the first thing for me with Fantagraphics that drew me in, honestly, was the high quality publishing. These incredible volumes. Like it's not. It's well done art with time and dedication. And I think, for you too, being around that atmosphere and, being connected with that's for me, that's the major leagues. It's the major leagues. And I a lot of times I don't know, publishers nowadays. There's some publishers that just seem so important. Fantagraphics being one. I love Drawn and Quarterly up in Montreal. Like that are important publishers in the role of publishing great work. So yeah, super excited to hear about Fantagraphics. And part of the thing too, like I said, when I got here, I didn't know. I moved here from Madison, Wisconsin, where I lived for about 12 years. And, good comics there, but it wasn't like culturally as significant as you find in Portland or Seattle. And I saw, speaking of Wisconsin, I saw that I think it was Lion's Tooth had your comic over there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
That's right.
I believe.
Yeah, Lion's Tooth are wonderful friends of mine. The proprietor of Lion's Tooth, forgive me, can't remember her name, but she just released her own publication, her own zine called Cicada, and it's an exploration into magical realism through Cicada. It was a mind bender. I love Lion's Tooth. Yes, I'm very blessed to be part of that. It's on a funny name of the street that it's on. And maybe you're familiar with it. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Kinnick Avenue in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
The easiest way is you just say KK when you're out there. It's Kinnick. It's Kinnick.
That's amazing.
But if you're out there, you can just roll, hey, KK. And people are like, oh, this dude's, I'll help this dude out. He knows what he's doing. No, great. I love Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I think I've seen Lion's Tooth. I know I've seen Lion's Tooth ad in a comic which I adore and who I've also had on the show. The comic being Santos Sisters.
Oh, sure.
By Greg and Fake. And they've been on the show. And I've seen Lion Tooth's ad in the Great Santos Sisters publication. So yeah, love to check out some more Lion's Tooth. And folks, check out the Fantagraphics and that newsletter list. I'm super excited to pop onto that and get that feel.
We have so many talented artists here in Seattle. Brandon Lehman is one of them. Another cartoonist that I got to mention is Max Klotfelter, and he just recently got into a publication that's somehow connected with Robert Crumb called Mineshaft. So if you get some extra time, check out Mineshaft, an incredible compilation comic book.
Yeah. Love sharing this. One of the things I wanted to actually just make sure like we have it in place is let's start with where to find your stuff.
Sure.
physically like physically some of the spots. It's a worldwide podcast, but where can folks go like some of your stuff physically to run into it?
So I'm in 13 different bookstores. Actually, it's 12 now because one of the comic book stores is taking a hiatus. It was a local place here in Burien called Ancient Comics, run by a man by the name of Jeff Hicks, a wonderful supporter of my comic books from back in the day. You can get a bunch here in Seattle. Tales to Astonish is a great local comic book shop in West Seattle. Atomic Books in Baltimore. If you're in Baltimore, go check out Atomic Books. The Comics Place in Bellingham, Quimby's in Chicago. And if you're in Federal Way, if you're in Federal Way here in the Puget Sound area, there's Action City Comics and Toys. Fantagraphics Bookstore and Gallery in Georgetown has me. A couple places in Portland, Maine too. Strange Maine, Coast City Comics. And one of my favorite record stores here in Seattle, Singles Going Steady. And a wonderful LGBTQ plus centered bookstore here in Seattle called Phoenix Comics. So
hell yeah.
There's 13. It's rough. You go into comic book stores and you're like, hi, my name's Mark. I make a comic. And sometimes they're like, wow, that's cool. And other times like, I don't know, kid. I don't think this thing's going to sell, So
who the hell are you?
Exactly.
Yeah. comic book owners and workers have opinions. If y'all haven't noticed, going to comic book stores all the time. Hey, if anybody out there in Chicago, if you go into Quimby's, you could, as far as I know, if it's still in stock, the Something Rather Than Nothing zine issue 1 and Waltzing Carpet Juliette. If you're in Chicago, you can pop in and get physical zines from both of us here. So if you're lucky and there in Chicago, what about ordering your stuff? What about warning danger? Like where do we run up to get some blast of music and or online for the comics and such?
So if you want to check out my comic books, you can go to my Etsy store, and it's just etsy.com/bangzap. BANGZAP. That's the name of my little publishing, Bangzap Publishing. And I got all 4 of my comic books there. And the Warning Danger CDs and t-shirts and stuff are all up on Etsy too. If you want to check out our music, we're all on Spotify and iTunes. We have a really cool Pandora station. But the best place to do it is Warning Danger on YouTube.
Man.
Yeah, thanks. We made some really incredible videos on YouTube. If you type in Warning Danger Holly Flips, we're the first thing that comes up. It's a music video where we smash the windshield of my own car with a baseball bat. It's awesome.
You're a madman. You're a madman. Unbelievable. Hey, for art, right?
Yeah, super
things
art.
Things need to be.
I got to replace my windshield anyways. It's either going to have one giant crack or a bunch of little ones. And that's what we did. We put cameras inside. It's great. It's a cool fucking video. Holly Flips by Warning Danger.
Love it. Hey, a little bit of a curveball question, but just for the sake of public safety.
Yeah.
For you, what you have this moment here to tell folks, be careful about. There's danger out there in the world. What should people feel safe? Be have an eye towards being safe here. We're recording almost in April 2024. What dangers that folks need to be safe from now?
Silica gel packets. Do not.
Oh man.
No, don't you crack that open, think that it's yummy, tasty salt. Don't eat silica gel packets.
They look like they taste good. What's going on? And it says don't eat, so everybody's inclination is to eat, but don't eat. Those are just to protect the product, right? Those aren't part of the product to consume, right?
I don't know what the heck they're used for, but they show up all the time. And I'm here to tell the world, don't eat silica gel packets.
Thank you. Hey, and the thing is, when it's when it's cold outside, spend minimal time outside, dress warm. You could get hypothermia, or you could get heat stroke. Likewise, if it's too hot outside, have sun protection. We're thinking about making a split 45. On one side, we'll have heat stroke, and on the other side, we'll have hypothermia. So that's kind of coming down the pipe from Warning Danger. Yeah, well, I mean, heck, if you can use music to keep people safe in an unsafe world, and to also be regaling them with punk, doom, guitar sounds, check out your Warning Danger, because even if you choose to exclude or ignore the advice, the sonic experience still awaits. If you're oppositional to good advice,
we have some very talented musicians. Part of that. Yeah, I love the drums in Doom Vacuum, and then Asteroid. That was the drummer Ian Etheridge, who was in a great other band called Uncle Lord. Yeah, I made a lot of good friends, I tell you what, with that other like-minded musicians that we've played with and stuff. And Rat City Ruckus, we went on tour with them. We went on tour with Hidden Number. You'll hear some funny tour stories.
I can't. Let's categorize it. uh, a tour story with the most destruction in it, since we're talking about safety.
Oh, I got one. So we were playing we were on tour, and like the second night of the tour, we were playing at a punk bar in Oakland, which the name escapes me right now. But it was during the World Series, and San Francisco was in the World Series, and the Bay Area, it's already cram packed in there. So throw in a whole bunch of random baseball fans. Holy crap. But the show went well, right? But we couldn't get a hotel room to save our lives. We had to stay way outside in some weird ass town. I think it was called Richland or something like that, or Richwood, right? So this crappy ass hotel that we were staying in, it had not one, but a pack of feral cats in the parking lot. Right when we were parking our tour van, there's all these feral cats everywhere, right? So our bass player, Rick, decides he loves animals, right? He just loves these little feral cats running around the parking lot. And he decides, I'm going to feed them some cheese. We have a big old hunk of cheese in the cooler, Tillamook cheeses. He goes out there and he's feeding these cats cheese after the show at 3:30 in the morning. And what the fuck happens? Rick gets bit by a stray cat. A bass player in Warning Danger has been bit by a potential rabies suspect, right? So we start messing with him, man. Oh, dude, you're going to get rabies. Or maybe you're going to get a superpower. That's how Spider-Man started. Yeah. He got bit by a spider. Now Rick been bit by a feral cat. But yeah, so he had a little bit harder time playing his bass for the rest of the tour, but it's pretty badass.
Yeah, the feral cats when you're on the road in the hotel parking lot. There was a whole bunch of statements there that I'm like, this can't go well. This can't go well. In the middle of nowhere, at the hotel, pack of feral cats, and let's feed them. And
let's feed them cheese. Cats don't pack up. Cats are usually individual. There's a whole fucking pack of them in this crusty ass hotel in the middle of nowhere. Took all of our gear inside the hotel that night, man. Left nothing in the van.
Made it through it.
There are spray on top of the TV in case somebody busted through there and wanted to rob us. We had our pepper spray right on top of the TV.
Well, part of the moral of the story is, it is difficult to tour in the Bay Area when the baseball, talk about fanatics. I love it. I'm from Boston, so I can recognize baseball fanatics from pretty far away. And
they sell hotel rooms in the area.
It's like trying to go somewhere when there's a big graduation. I did that recently and being like, why do hotel prices go up to the hundreds of dollars and are not available? And it's like, oh, everybody in town is graduating today. So, hey, Mark, I just want to tell you, I'm super excited to enjoy your art. And like I said, just recently bumping in to that music I'm really digging on. I'm going to send it to some folks of mine who dig on such music. I get a good group of folks, and so wanted to thank you for that. And a great conversation. I appreciate collaborating here with me, getting excited about art and having some fun with it, and just really appreciate what you do, and super pleased. I know you enjoy the show, but super pleased to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ken. It was a lot of fun. I love doing these podcasts, like the Spud Goodman show, and it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, podcasts are fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasts are cool.
And you
can talk about.
Thanks for having me, and I'm gonna keep you up to date. I've got Ivar The Boxer coming out soon, and I've got 4 issues of Waltzing Carpet Juliette all finished up, and Warning Danger might have a show soon, and I got friends, the people who were doing Vampire Hunter Hank now have a new film project called Bloodbath in Palookaville coming out. There's a lot of cool art being made these days.
Just love it. Thanks, Mark, for coming out to Something Rather Than Nothing.
Mark Ostler, that's me. Warning Danger, Bangs Out Publishing, and Ivar The Boxer soon to come. Oh, and you know who's going to be the next spoken word artist? As soon as we get it confirmed, Fantasy A. He's a friend of mine. He just recently made a movie called Fantasy A Gets a Mattress. He's in England right now on some sort of film festival. So he's a supporter of this crazy thing that we call Bangs Out Publishing. Thank you for being part of it too, Ken. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, good brother. Love the art, and let's chat again soon, man. Everybody drop in. Warning Danger, Waltzing Carpet Juliette, all the different art. Get your physical copy. If you're in Quimby's, get the SRTN, Some Rather Nothing Zine 1, and Mark's work, and check out Warning Danger, Spotify. Check out these videos. Thank you, good brother. Keep it rocking up there in Seattle.
Thank you, Something Rather Than Nothing podcast, Ken. It was wonderful work.
This is Something Rather Than Nothing.
And listeners, to stay connected with us and our guests, visit somethingratherthannothing.com. Join our mailing list for exclusive updates and access to guest-created art. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review on your podcast platform. People really read that shit. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our community across the planet. This is a global show, and we like to give a shout out to our many listeners across the world, including many listeners in Canada, Spain, Germany, UK, Argentina, Brazil, India, Thailand, and so many more places. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast for behind-the-scenes content. And the best way to help the show is to tell your friends about us. If you love it, they'll love it too. Tell your friends who love it. We love you. This is Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast.